So let's look at writing equations that are parallel or perpendicular. So when I look at this, they want a line perpendicular to the line 6y plus 4x equals negative 12. And they want it to go through the point 3, 4. Okay? So the first thing we need to do is figure out what the slope is on that original line. So I'm going to take the equation 6y plus 4x equals negative 12, and I'm going to rewrite that to slope-intercept form. So we're going to rewrite it to this format right here. So I want to get the y by itself, so let's move the 4x to the other side. So now I have 6y equals negative 4x minus 12. Let's divide everything by 6. And we get y equals, now let's see, we need to reduce that fraction. So 4/3 turns into negative 4/6 turns into negative 2/3 x. And 12 divided by 6 turns into 2. So that means my original slope was negative 2/3. Okay. We need a line that is perpendicular. So we need the new slope. So my perpendicular slope is going to be the opposite sign, and it's going to be a reciprocal. So that means I flipped it. So if my first slope was negative, my new slope would be positive. My first slope was 2/3. When I flip that, my new slope is 3/2. So I now want to write an equation given the point 3/2, or the slope 3/2, and the point 3, 4. Now let's look at our three lines. We have three forms of a line. Now it doesn't matter whether they asked me to put it in standard form or they asked me to write it in slope-intercept form. We will always start with this form right here. That gets us our initial equation. So I'm going to take that one and let's move it over here and use it. Okay, so the x and the y are the variables, so we get to keep them. I'm going to substitute in 4 for my y1, and we're going to substitute in x, or 3 for my x1, and we're going to substitute in 3/2 for my slope. Now I have an equation. So next we need to look at the directions and see how they wanted it to write. What format did they want the final answer in? So if they want the final answer to be in slope-intercept form, I need to rewrite my equation so that it looks like this. So let's get rid of our parentheses by multiplying. And let's see, we're going to multiply this times my 3. Now, to multiply, I just need to multiply straight across. So y minus 4 equals 3/2 x plus 9/2. Okay. Now, my final goal is to get that y by itself. So let's move the 4 to the other side. But when I move it over here, I need to put it with that fraction. So instead of writing it as 4, I'm going to write it as 8/2, because 8/2 equals 4. Now I get y equals 3/2 x. Now When you add fractions, you add the top, so that gives me 17, and I keep the bottom, so 17 halves. So this is our equation, and that equation is in slope-intercept form.